Good morning, great minds of the iGaming industry. It's pretty cool to think that the future of iGaming is literally being created right now by the people in this room. And the future is what we decide to make it. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is the future. And we're going to try to make some really good predictions. But it's hard. However, I gotta say, some people are just good at predicting the future. Like this guy, who invented telegoggles 50 years before we would know it as VR. Just incredible foresight. That fellow had a magazine. He was popular in sci-fi, and he created a lot of cool concepts. And on the cover of this magazine, you can see not a train, but a train in the sky on a single track. And if you look closely, it says 3 miles a minute on a monorail. And of course, today, they're all over the place. Good foresight. And they predicted even that normal people like us, not astronauts, but just normal people, might someday be able to have their own travel to space. And that just happened as well.
History made. The first all-civilian flight to orbit the Earth has blasted off.
Civilians. Incredible. And it's not easy, though. Not every prediction is spot on. In 2016, it was unthinkable anything other than Hillary Clinton becoming the next president of the United States of America. It was a given. Everybody knew it was going to happen. From 2016 to 2020, she was going to be the next president of the United States. And if anybody tried to predict otherwise, they were laughed at.
Which Republican candidate has the best chance of winning the general election?
Of the declared ones right now, Donald Trump.
It's not always fun making predictions. Even when you're right, you can be criticized. And who saw coronavirus coming? One person did.
Today, the greatest risk of global catastrophe doesn't look like this. Instead, it looks like this. If anything kills over 10 million people in the next few decades, it's most likely to be a highly infectious virus rather than a war.
Masterful prediction. 5 years before coronavirus hits. But it is hard predicting the future. And it is scary, and you have to be wrong in front of your friends, and that's why nobody does it. That's why you don't see people posting on Facebook where they think the Dow Jones is going to be on December 31st. What they'll do is they'll make predictions to go with the group. So when Bitcoin's rising, everybody will say, yeah, I think it's going to go higher, as long as there's a bunch of people with them. But we think we're really good at making predictions because we're really good at looking at the past, and you kind of think like, oh, well, I knew that was going to happen. And you tell yourself these little lies. I'll make bets on a weekend. I'll bet on 5, 7, 10 teams, and then I'll watch some blowout happening, and I'll say, damn it, I was going to bet on that team. Was I? I bet 7 bets. I didn't bet it. I could have bet it. I didn't bet it. But suddenly I remember history as though I was going to. Of course I wasn't. Headlines everywhere. Earlier this year, Russia's building up the troops on the border, 150,000 people there. And we all look back and say, oh yes, of course. It was obvious there was going to be an invasion. He had 150,000 people on the border. He's a crazy man. Of course there was going to be an invasion. Really? You knew? Because the capital markets were shocked by it. The ruble plummeted to the dollar and every other major currency. Everybody was shocked by it. But it seems like in hindsight, oh, that was obvious. Everywhere I go, I hear people say, oh yes, well, Bitcoin, where could it go? It was at 60,000, 65,000. It could only go down from there. Actually, when it was at that rate, everybody was talking about it going to 1 million. But if it's so easy, where is it going to go in 6 months from now? Just tell me. Or we look at stocks and we say, yeah, I was going to buy Tesla, or maybe you did, but then you sold too early. And it's so easy to predict the past. And that's a little trick we do. And I do it too. When I make a new game, I'll say, oh, I knew this one was going to be a hit. I felt so good about it. And I did, it's true. But I also felt great about this dud, which was another one of my inventions. So it happens. But it takes courage to make predictions. It takes guts to get on a stage and draw a line in the sand and say, here's what I think is going to happen. Because you have a lot to lose and not a lot to gain, and it takes guts. And so I'm about to invite two gentlemen on the stage that I truly admire. They're young guys, but they're already sort of legends in our industry. The first one is Robin Reed. Robin is a true innovator. He lives on the bleeding edge of technology, and he just loves it. He's involved in every element of taking young companies and accelerating them. He's got over 100 million under management. He is the CEO of HappyHour.io. They've acquired some 6 companies, and they're looking to acquire more. They're all on the bleeding edge, very, very innovative, a true futurist. Robin Reed. Joined by Robin Reed is Tim Heath, already a legend in our industry. He is the founder of Yolo Group. He's a serial entrepreneur and venture capitalist involved in Web3 technologies, fintech. His company, Yolo Group, they've got some 600 million under management, draws on decades of experience in turning ideas into successful businesses. My friends, please invite a warm welcome to Robin Reed and Tim Heath onto the stage.
Thank you.
Welcome, guys.
Thank you, Todd.
Sidebit City. Sidebit City. It was a good game.
They can't all be winners. Well, guys, we're here to talk about predictions. Would you like to kick it off with anything bold? Open field. Doesn't have to be something you think is going to necessarily happen, but maybe something that's far more likely to happen than anybody really thinks is possible.
I'll go first. There will be a mass exodus from the Curacao gaming license regime because people are scared of what might happen, and they will take preemptive activity to try to move somewhere else to probably a worse jurisdiction, when in fact the Curacao government will put a good regulation in place, which will be a sensible long-term solution.
Curacao, where a lot of the crypto casinos are based right now, a lot of the growth casinos are based there right now, and you see an exodus.
Yeah, there's going to be a new regulation coming through apparently in next March, and I think a lot of people will preemptively move from Curacao and look for their backup plans quickly and go to jurisdictions probably which are worse for customer protection, whereas I believe what Curacao is doing, the world we live in, probably it's a good idea, the new regulations and KYC checks and whatnot, it should be a good regime for people to use. Whether the industry will like Curacao later, who knows? But there are a lot of casinos running within that regulation.
Any natural winners and losers out of that?
The players could be the losers. Winners, I think some will go to Isle of Man, some will go to Kanawaki, some will go to maybe Philippines, some will go to Tuvalu, pick random Pacific nation, Vanuatu, who knows where.
Impressive geography lesson there. Wow, okay, I like it. Robin?
So I have to tell all the investors out there that now you have to take a good look at Todd and see how he reacts to this one, because my prediction is that following a number of bolt-on acquisitions over the last couple of years, Evolution is gearing up to do the big one. And I have an idea of who that could be, and now we're a little bit brain surgeon here in trying to predict things, and this is where it gets tough, and bigger chance of failure than being right. But I think Light & Wonder, they have made their business far less complicated with the sale of the lottery and the sports betting. They're sitting on one of the strongest land-based catalogs in the US. They have a social business with iGaming. They have a PAM. They are doing about 200 million per quarter in EBITDA, about the same as Evolution. They have about 25% market share in the US, the same as Evolution. They are worth an enterprise value of about 7-8 billion these days, while Evolution has an enterprise value of about 19-20 billion. So by default, they could make sense. Evolution on their end could fortify their position sort of against the vertical integration we're seeing in the US market, against the challengers that is coming left, right, and center in the live casino space. And it could open up a plethora of new opportunity. You have a company that is now obsessed with execution, have the best management in the industry in that regard. In-house control is important. However, with iGames, you have a more open philosophy with the developer studios. With obviously Light & Wonder, you have the open game system that can tie into a larger ecosystem. As we're transitioning from Web 2 to Web 3, we need to be more open-minded, so there will be a lot of disruption, and this could get tentacles from Evolution into various communities and pick up their signals. So I think it makes complete sense, and let's see if it happens.
Wow, that one's a little close to home. Nice. I'll stay out, Tim. Any thoughts on this one?
Do you think Evolution will buy Light & Wonder, or the other way around?
I think Evolution, look, the share price will bounce back, and they're free of debt, they're highly profitable, their slots are on track. Once, obviously the one-stop shop now, next 6, 7, 8 months will come together. And I think the company will be operationally ready to do a major acquisition, and I think it's time to write the next chapter in the Evolution history. Whether it be Light & Wonder, I don't know, I just think it makes complete sense.
So you mean Aristocrat won't buy Evolution?
No, I would be surprised if that one happened. Obviously, the caveat of Light & Wonder is your land-based business, and I wouldn't want to be a lawyer in either company if it happens, but yeah.
No comment.
What do you think, Todd?
I think it's fascinating. And I love that we kick off a session on predictions with two bold, big things. You got everybody talking the rest of the show now if we just stop right here, I think. So I got a question, though. Like, okay, it's 2022. When we're in 2030 and we're looking back on 2022, how will we define, like, this moment in time? Like, it's not the transition to the phone era, or you know, like what is this moment in time when we have the clarity of hindsight?
How Twitch controlled an industry.
Wow.
And how the industry is now, well, Twitch is fighting back, obviously. But if you think through it, there's been a lot of Twitch streamers going out there, and they play certain games on the supply side, buy certain B2Cs on the operator side, and people follow them, and things like live spins coming in there as well. But they have the ability with those hyper bonus buys, which are just sick, by the way, and should be turned off for the protection of the players.
Hundreds of thousands on one bonus buy.
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But that has influenced an industry to grow certain suppliers and certain B2C operators in a sort of in a different tangent to what normal growth looks like. And the influence certain sites can have over an industry in that regard is just amazing and scary at the same time. So it's the age of the Twitch streamer and their influence on shaping an industry.
Feels like they're flying a little bit close to the sun at this second in time, huh?
Yes, they are. But I think the gaming industry always has to fly a little bit close to the sun, because if you don't, you'll go stale.
So what about that? I mean, you know, Twitch have made the news recently. They've sort of, kind of banned streaming. They specifically called out Stake and Roulette and a few others, and they're taking a pretty aggressive stance. They took an earlier step kind of here, and now they're stepping it up and getting much more aggressive. What's the future look like there? What's going on? Does YouTube follow suit? In 5 years, is there basically just going to be streamers streaming from New Jersey to New Jersey? Or like, where does it go?
Or do people find other platforms? Is TikTok becoming the new streaming playground where it's a 30-second clip of a big win becomes, as opposed to an 8-hour stream going on? I mean, if you look at Indian Instagram stories, it's all players on there playing their 30-second streams going through, trying again to influence players what's going to happen. I don't think just Twitch turning it off. They will go to a different platform. They will build their own platforms. But there is an appetite from the players to watch the potential of the big win. And I think that's what draws in the endorphins of a player, of seeing others win or play and enjoy and thinking, I could be doing that. And that's what brings people to it. They've entertained it correctly. If we go back years where it was the top 10 poker sites, the top 10 casino sites, the top 10 list on SEO, or Black Hat PPC, the call to action wasn't there. It was the call to action of a bonus, which got nearly mucked up and people were taking advantage of that financial incentive. Now you're seeing real people. Why do people gamble? Because they want the thrill of making $1 into 10,000, win the chicken lotto. Now, if you can watch your star on Twitch doing that, that's a hugely sort of endorphinic approach to it all that becomes good watching content, and people enjoy watching this content.
I grew up watching game shows on TV.
Yeah.
And the more money you're giving away, the more viewers you get.
Price is Right.
You know, yeah, the final one at the end of the season, they might give away $1 million. And that was the big thing. Money, watching people win money is exciting.
And the near miss. The near miss is exciting.
Yeah, the agony of the it could have been. Those are some of the best.
Look, there was two news coming out, Todd. One was that they were banning certain sites and remote licensed sites, but the other news was that they were allowing licensed sites. That was not a given. This is a company owned by Amazon with a large underage population on the platform, and nevertheless, they sort of endorse the future being licensed. So I think that says a lot about the future for Twitch. Now, I agree, there will be another platform, and we got that platform. It's called Livespins, and it's doing phenomenal. And I'll talk a bit more about it later, I think. But we've had it live on a couple of sites now, and it is outperforming Crazy Time by a factor of 2 in terms of bets and so forth on the same amount of players, now both being sort of a thumbnail in the lobby. So I find it highly interesting. If you look at social in casino as a whole, it's a space that is definitely going to disrupt online. Now, think about sort of core human behaviors. You mentioned endorphin and these things. If you look at the behavioral scientists, they would say that there is 2 things that really shapes you, and that is the conflict between authenticity and attachment. In a conflict of authenticity and attachment, then attachment always wins. You know, what is authenticity? It's your identity, it's yourself, it's who you believe you are. What is attachment? It's your friends, it's your hometown, it's what the popular guy next to you is saying. Now, what we tend to do is that we tend to follow attachment more than authenticity. Now, when I was young, when I was, 12, 13 years old, and going to school and playing SimCity and Railroad Tycoon, I wasn't very popular. I came to class and barely anybody have heard about me. But later on, we got IRC, we got, esports, we got communities around the games, and so forth. Now, casino is lagging far behind, but what Twitch has shown is that we need that attachment, we need that social space. Even you might sit and play a single-player slot, you need to be able to log on somewhere and have a window next to you where there is something going on, where there is other people. Now, my message to the industry is that we need to take control over that space. We can't rely on mainstream media. We can't rely on the Facebooks, on the Amazons and these people. We need to produce that offering ourselves. We need to create a positive context and environment around our product, and that's one of the ideas we're working on.
But then that begs the question, is that what the metaverse should be for? Is that what we can control the entertainment channel, that people can go into a space of which we control, or someone controls, and we can have the streamers on a screen like this doing what they need to do. We could be in a metaverse right now, and people could hang out there. I don't know, watching a Twitch stream, I find it quite a mindless activity, which sometimes I want to stop my mind going and watch a Twitch stream and enjoy it. So maybe that's where Web3, or that's where metaverse works, that you put yourself in that environment and you enjoy that mindless sort of entertainment.
If you're an operator of a casino, do you think it's good value to pay streamers?
I don't, but I can tell you a number of people who do.
Oh yeah, they're out there.
And they overspend too.
I'm one of them. I think it is great value. I mean, they don't only bring you sort of acquisition and reach and all of that. They build engagement. They build affinity and loyalty.
I'm not saying it's not great. I think it's very much a great thing, but you asked if it's good value. I don't think it's good value because of the price streamers are charging at the moment.
some of the numbers you hear being thrown around are incredible.
Yeah.
And I don't know how those numbers work. They get $1 million a month, but then they have to gamble it through a few times. I don't know what the deals are, but they're incredible numbers. So it's not cheap to get big streamers.
But then isn't that an opportunity for Evolution to start putting those streamers behind the games which you're offering in the first place and then control that environment as well?
Fast forward 5 years. Who are going to be the big companies in the industry that we're all talking about? At this event, on this stage in 5 years, maybe a company we know who's going to be in a big, strong, dominant position, and maybe a surprise company that we're not really talking about right now or isn't yet quite in the industry. When you look out 5 years, who's in dominant positions?
I'll take one, Todd, and we are talking about them, but not adequately, and they're called Aristocrat, and they're going to come online late, but with a vengeance. They have the strongest content catalog. They've been an innovator in the land-based space for a number of years, and you just saw them acquiring Rockstar Gaming to get an RGS the other day. And when that catalog comes online and that budget comes online, then we will see a massive shake-up. Now, we in the online industry, we tend to look at these companies as dinosaurs. I know people within that management, and they're not dinosaurs. I would rather say that most of the people in this room, compared to a couple of those guys, are dinosaurs. They're really technically strong, they're really pro-efficient, they have shown that they can innovate, they have an incredible brand, they have an incredible reach. When those guys are moving online now with acquisitions, with organic development, it's going to really shake up the space over the next few years.
My one from a company people would know but will be bigger is Caliente in Mexico. And it won't just be what they're doing in Mexico, it will be how they attack the Hispanic population in America. Because I think everybody in America is going after a certain genre of player, and no one's really looking at how diverse the cultural makeup of America is and going after that one properly. So that would be one I think will be a dominant player in the American market in time to come if they decide to enter the American market. But they're well poised.
Interesting. Yeah, Aristocrat, a lot of people don't know, they have a massive social business. So they've been cutting their teeth in online in a different arena for many years. And they're and as you said, they've got the content. So it'll be very interesting to see them come into the space.
But a question on their old content. So when Novomatic came to play with Book of Ra, if you were a youngster growing up in Germany, you'd play that in the petrol station, you'd play that at the gaming hall, the slot halls, and then the transition to online was very easy. Playing Aristocrat content in Crown Casino 15, 20 years ago, would everyone playing now play that content, considering where the content's moved on and how it's now changed so dynamically? No Limit City, for instance, doing crazy, amazing games. Is that so far different to what Aristocrat's old content used to be? Will it actually shift online well?
Yeah, let's take the other side. The winners of online travel aren't hotel companies. It's Expedia and Hotels.com and booking sites. The winner of online retail isn't Walmart, it's Amazon. And the current winners of online are all pure play online companies. There's no evidence that land-based companies shoot in and get to dominate. So why is Aristocrat going to be different?
Because they have also, like you mentioned, the social casual business, which is incredibly innovative, where they have an enormous database and where they have been sort of not learning only to do the front office, the product and so forth, but also how to do the back office for many years. And I think the content is so strong that as soon as it goes online, we shouldn't. So I believe in millennials, I believe in the next generation, I believe the content is changing, all of those things. That's what some of these companies that HappyHour is investing into is doing. But we shouldn't overstate it. It's not going to change entirely tomorrow. There is a large number of players worldwide out there that knows this content, that's played it for a long time, that's going to look for it online. You know, the Book of Ra knowledge is interesting. I saw one of the companies here from Malta, an old friend of mine, La Sarantala Wilds, they launched into Germany after getting the license the other day, and they sent out a letter to all their players explaining why this was good. Read that email in the second paragraph, and this is an innovative company. They wrote, Book of Ra is that back. You know, so we need to balance the legacy versus the future. And I think that company is in prime position to do that.
Let's stay on Aristocrat for a minute, because they are one of the 5 biggest market cap companies in the industry, and they tried to buy Playtech, and it didn't happen. And so they've certainly got a big appetite. Is anybody? Well, what happens to Playtech? How about that?
Pass.
I'll leave that one for Tim.
Pass.
A double pass?
Playtech will always find their place in the market. They're a smart bunch of people, there's no doubt about it. They may not lead the market like they led Asia 10, 15 years ago, but they will, from what I read, they're doing well in Italy and certain regulated markets, I think Mexico as well. I think they'll continue to have good bottom line profits, and they'll continue to aggressively pick up what they can and control certain parts of the market. There's no doubt they'll come out well. Whether they'll be the most innovative company in the world over the next 5 years, probably not. But they won't be disappearing, I don't believe.
Well, I compete against Playtech at Evolution, and I look at them. I think they're doing wonderful stuff. I think Edo is going to be speaking at this event here, and I think they're contributing wonderful new games to the industry. I like them a lot. I think it's cool. It's an exciting story. This Australian group comes to buy them, and then this Asian group buys 25% of the stock, and they block the deal, and it's just sitting out there. And I wonder what'll happen there. But it's an interesting saga.
The question I've got about Aristocrat, obviously, is Double Down, or which is their social one, or Playticker, one of them, I can't remember. But it's an amazing social content casinos, how only 2% of the people contribute money and 0.2% actually generate big revenues for a company. And they do so much work on the user interface of the slot game to have the right call to action, to do the retention of playing that game. Why has that approach never come across to the real money gaming industry? When you've got Double Down making 600 million and whatnot, the people working in that social gaming space, why are they not bringing the techniques across to real money gaming?
This is a huge question, and everybody talks about it. Everybody has an opinion. If you bought a social casino, how well do you think you could convert those players over to real money? Are they just different player sets? Is there a small sliver of people in there? Are they all going to convert because it's just pent-up demand and it's an alternative to real money?
I think it comes down to why do people play slots in the first place? And are you doing it to turn your brain off and have half an hour of mindless fun? Or are you trying to actually hit that big jackpot and trying to make money out of slots? I think it must be a different type of thought process going through the different players. I don't think they cross over.
I think I disagree. I think they would. Maybe not it's not like you're going to convert 50 or 100% of them, but you can convert good. Look at a company called Chumba Casino, a sweepstake. Take a look at that one.
They're not social casinos. They're sweepstake casinos.
Their expression looks so much up in the same street. The form factor is the visual identity is so much up in the same street. And okay, there is lacking some level of gamification in these things, which I think is not as important as people are giving it credit for in the real money space. But the expression, the feel, the atmosphere, the ambience when you're in there is very much up in the same street. And I think the audience is overlapping as well.
So then, would that then suggest that, would you go so far as to say that, a lot of those companies are trading at pretty low multiples right now. Should big online operators snap them up and then take their 100 million players and just sort of work on the conversions? I guess a lot of the players are in America. As increasingly more states come online, you can move them over.
But is that Aristocrat's play when they finally launch their B2C operation and then they can cross their players over from one to the other?
I would love to have their database, but no, I think they should acquire it. I think they should continue growing that business as it is and continue to be more successful. If you look at the growth of those social casinos over the last 10 years, it is insane. And
so
it's not stopping.
DraftKings, Flutter, they should go and buy social casinos.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then they should utilize the data and the database as well as they can, but they shouldn't do it for the purpose of cross-converting players from one product that they're happy with into another one. they should perhaps enrich their universe by exposing them to another one while continuing to develop what they're good at well.
But aren't we missing an important fact? Maybe these social casinos don't want to get into real money gaming because they're making enough money in social gaming in the first place.
True.
Maybe we as real money gamers should be going to the social space.
True.
But the industry's too lazy to go and think about doing that.
I love reversing the question like that. So, we see a lot of land-based companies nowadays. MGM bought Leo Vegas. They're all kind of getting their feet wet by buying smallish online casinos. Is anybody going to do the move where Amazon buys Whole Foods, where the online company goes into land-based?
In America, no, because I think it's too well established on a land-based structure. I don't think, I don't know, can someone go and buy MGM? Can Entain buy MGM? Can DraftKings buy MGM? Would they know how to run a land-based operation? I think the land-based are trying to work out how they go online, and that's the one-way traffic at the moment.
But there is a value proposition in sort of sitting across the omnichannel and the value chain, and I wouldn't be surprised if a company like Evolution one day did something in that space, just to sit on the entire customer journey. But I don't think they will buy in BetMGM type, or an MGM type operator, or Las Vegas Sands, but perhaps something smaller would make sense.
In New York, I had mentioned, I thought that the winners of the future in America online gaming, they're going to just be kind of everywhere. And if you kind of connect those dots, I think a cool acquisition would be for doesn't matter, DraftKings, Flutter, MGM, to buy like Buffalo Wild Wings or something like that. And they just turned those all into a giant way of advertising their apps and converting people. Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about who the winners are going to be. Maybe you don't want to mention people by name, or maybe you do. But who's in trouble right now?
Europe.
Yeah.
It's a big place.
I don't see where the growth is in Europe. I think there should be a single European Union gaming license, full stop. And I think America's going down that line with their sort of state-by-state license as well. And if there's not going to be a single license, there should be a single framework of how to be regulated in Europe. So operators, suppliers, B2Cs can build a framework and then apply for a license and operate in multiple jurisdictions. But if the goalposts are so different in every country, then how can you run a good, innovative product which has got the player at the centre of the universe when you've got 3 floors of compliance trying to deal with everything? So I think Europe's really struggling, and I don't see where the growth will come from over the next 5 years.
Every subscale operator that is in a license-regulated fiat market will be a loser over the coming years. They will ultimately have to sell, or they will be out of business unless they pivot. And that's the harsh truth due to how the regulation has unfolded.
Wow.
Yeah. And everyone will run around saying, oh, well, hang on, Latin America is great. Africa is going to be amazing. Japan's going to be fantastic. So let's go there. But they're so culturally different from the mindset we employ, or we have here in Europe, that trying to enter those markets will be incredibly difficult, and it's the localised operators who will ultimately win in those markets. I was telling Robin before, there's a company in India, Sky 24/7, from the Sky and Diamond Exchange. They're so far biggest player in the Indian market that no one really knows about in Malta or in Europe. But they do their own things and they're happy with the way they're doing things, that people don't even realise there's big operators out there, or Sportybet in Africa, that it's just unknown, because trying to take this European or the mindset into those countries, it's very, very difficult to execute.
Why is it so hard? I mean, I've got a URL. I can go and just pay Google, come up #1 in a region, translate my site, support their currency. Why is it so difficult?
I think getting someone in the door on the site is one thing, and yes, when you pay Google, you'll have multiple credit cards for your black hat at PPC. But once they're in there, how do you retain the customer and appeal to the customer to give them a good experience that they'll want to come back and be retained by that site? And I think that's where that retention aspect of speaking the right lingo to a site is incredibly difficult. you could say, well, hang on, we can go and get a group of people in Malta, in Estonia, in Marbella, wherever else, to be that country management. But trying to find the way to really understand and operate in the market and speak the right tongue, you've got to be very culturally sensitive.
Yeah, I agree. It's like a million fine subtleties
Yeah.
that if you don't know, you don't know. It's very difficult.
But if you look at even Baccarat, the Chinese Baccarat is very different to Japanese Baccarat as well. One doesn't like square corners, one doesn't like rounded corners. And how do you know the right way to do this? Different parts of Korea or India, it's going to be very different types of way of presenting the game.
I always like likening gaming to music. So like, it's hard to make a hit slot, just like it's hard to make a hit song, and I think that's sort of the same. It's hard enough to make a hit song in your own native language. To go into another country and make a hit song is nearly impossible. Yeah.
But
Good analogy.
Question for Robin. If you were to launch a new B2C site in Europe, which jurisdiction would you go to first?
In Europe, I would go regulated. I think I would go to, I learned an expression the other day, the pigs country, Portugal, Italy, Greece, and Spain. I would have looked at that region.
And pick up 4 licenses to
Yes.
operate within the wall.
Which also require a massive budget.
So does this mean it's pricing out new entrants to the market?
Yes, absolutely. If you look at all the deltas between various, technology, marketing, and so forth, I mean, the scale you need to operate at in order to be successful these days is enormous. So if in Europe, I would go for those countries, perhaps some Eastern European countries, and I would need a massive budget.
I think our industry's biggest company is Las Vegas Sands. Absent in online. Sheldon Adelson was sort of famously anti-online gaming, and he's passed away, and the new administration has sort of shown maybe they're more open to it. Predictions. Sands.
They have been active in M&A space. They've been investing into companies. I really like one, Streamlayer.io. They've done another sort of micro-betting site as well that I think is interesting. I don't remember the name. I think they are dipping their feet before they're getting ready to dive in. They will have to make a move. Macau, you probably know more than me, Todd, but or Tim, I don't think it will recover to the same state it ever was. And even if it does, will it continue to grow and be the foundation of a business? So they will have to make a move online. Online is the future. They're testing the waters now, and they will come in big.
Disagree? ABC, the Asian Baccarat company, they don't need to do anything different. Singapore's obviously smashing. Macau's a trouble for them. Sands need to open up in Dubai. And they will open up a land base in Dubai, and they will smash it, and Dubai will become the home of international land-based gaming within the next 5 to 10 years.
But the interesting one is then what's next? You have these multi-billion projects, and
you protect it. That's what you do. You don't innovate anymore. You protect it.
Yeah, but which other regions are you going to go to? You're not going to invest a multi-billion property into Russia at the moment, are you? Where in Latin America? Where in the United States? Where in Africa? Where in
Japan, obviously, for an integrated resort. Dubai for an integrated resort.
Yeah, that gives you 2 countries. So then in a 20-year perspective, 30-year perspective, where do you go? They have to go online.
But they had 3 main countries, in top, you know all this, but as I understand, Las Vegas, Macau, Singapore.
Yeah.
And that's what they did.
Yeah.
And they didn't need to do anything else.
We'll see.
Well, they can certainly make a gangster move. They can buy just about anybody.
Yes.
And if stock prices go the wrong way, then they can always wake up and change their mind.
What does it take for them to change their mind and their approach? Like, what triggers those land-based big behemoths to go and venture into the unknown of the online streaming world?
I think bankers come into their office and they say, listen, your stock is under pressure. You've got to make a move. You, Mr. CEO, you're going to be out of a job if you don't do something. And I've got just the company for you to buy. And they put this pressure on you, and they sit around and they weave up what a great idea it is, and the hard things, they tell themselves it's going to be easier.
Yeah. I mean, it might not be the last time we have a pandemic either, right? So it's not so awesome to only be land-based. And if your founder dies, then...
It's a lot easier to shut the world down the second time than the first time, right? Yeah. We got about a minute left here. Who would you be buying stock in right now?
Evolution Gaming. no, but look at it. I talked a little bit about it earlier. I mean, one-stop shop, you're making headway. You have done bolt-on acquisitions. You have consolidated them well. Bottom line is healthy as ever. The last report was strong. The share price has dipped. You know, the CEO increases. I think he bought 10 million euro worth of shares, you told me the other day when we had lunch, Todd, and I don't know, of a net value of 60 million in his life or something. I mean, he's all in, and so are you and the rest of the company. So, I mean, the share price has dipped. It's only really sort of macroeconomics that can bring it down further, in my opinion. It has to be a good buy.
Tim?
Ethereum. No, that's not on the Nasdaq.
You want to put a future price on Ethereum or Bitcoin?
Yeah, in a year, Ethereum will be $5,000.
And Bitcoin?
Ethereum will follow Bitcoin. I don't know. I just want the price to be stable so people can gamble more confidently. But they all move into USDT anyway. I like bet makers in Australia. They're obviously moving into the American market with horse racing. There's a smart bunch of people behind them. The share price is depressed, a bit like Evolution at the moment, and I think they're both good buys. But as always, a diversified portfolio is the way to go.
Phenomenal, guys. Thank you so much. Let's give it up.
All right. Very good.
Thank you, Tim.
Cheers.
Good choice. Thank you, Todd.
Thanks, guys.
Which shares are you going to buy, Todd?